будет русский, английский. Поэтому,
So the main
если вы говорите
languages will be
по-русски,
Russian and
то, пожалуйста,
English.
включите перевод
So if
видеоэкрана
you
на
don't
русский язык.
understand the speaker, then
Наша
please
встреча
turn
записывается на
on
видео.
the translation on the globe.
Сегодня у нас будет следующее расписание.
So
Сначала я помолюсь,
what are we
потом
going
коротко
to
расскажу о цели
have
нашей серии
today?
встреч.
So first, we
Потом
will
мы недолго
pray.
почитаем слова в
Then
хундуке
I
и
will
сопроводительные
share
по
about the
свидетельствованиям.
goal of our meeting.
После этого я
Then we have a
приглашу
short
мистера
hunduke,
Джека Корли.
and then I will
Он выступит
invite
на тему
Mr.
«Мои
Corley,
переживания в свидетельствовании».
and he will
После этого,
speak
если в
on the
чате
topic
будут
My
вопросы,
experience in
то
witnessing.
про свидетельствование, то я задам ему один-два таких
If
вопроса.
you have any
После
questions,
этого мы
you can ask.
сфотографируемся, я сделаю объявление про
Please
следующую
write down in the
встречу,
chart.
и мы закончим нашу
Then we'll
сегодняшнюю
have a
встречу.
group photo.
Дорогие
Don't
друзья,
forget
присоедините, пожалуйста, к
this
моей молитве.
moment. So let's pray now.
Дорогой наш Небесный Отец,
Our
добрый
dear
вечер.
Heavenly
Небесный Отец, мы очень
Parent,
рады приветствовать Тебя
good
сегодня
evening.
здесь.
We are deeply
Отец,
grateful to greet you
для нас свидетельство
tonight.
является очень важной деятельностью. Мы понимаем,
Witnessing
что
is
наша
a
церковь
most important
была
activity for
создана благодаря
us.
свидетельствованию, развивалась благодаря свидетельствованию,
We understand that
достигла
our
того уровня,
church
который мы сейчас видим
grows
благодаря
by
этому
witnessing,
свидетельствованию.
is
Отец,
developing
мы
by
очень ждем,
witnessing.
мы очень хотим, чтобы
And right
свидетельствование
now,
развивалось и
we
укреплялось. Отец, мы
truly
хотим
want to develop
находить
witnessing.
регулярных членов нашей церкви,
We want
постоянных
to
членов нашей церкви, чтобы
enlarge
нас
the
стало все
membership
больше.
of
Небесные
our
родители, и мы
co-members.
хотим наследовать у
And we
наших
want
старших братьев и сестер не
sincerely to
только методы,
inherit
но и дух
from
свидетельствования,
our
Отец,
older brothers and
чтобы,
sisters
чтобы
the
с этим духом,
knowledge
Отец, чтобы
and
с этими
especially the
подвигами, победами
spirit
мы могли
in
идти мир
witnessing,
и приглашать людей.
that we can
Спасибо тебе
inherit
большое за
those
возможность собираться
victories
вместе
and
через
go out
границы стран,
with the
через
same
большие
spirit.
расстояния.
I hope that we
Я приношу
can
свой
go
отчет
beyond
Агапалкина Артема, член Центральной
our
Православной Семьи
countries,
Aju.
different languages. I pray this in my name, Aju.
Так, дорогие друзья,
Now,
два
dear
слова расскажу
friends,
про
in
цель
few
наших встреч,
words,
нашей
I
серии
want to
встреч.
describe the goal of
Свидетельствование
these
деятельность
meetings.
очень непростая,
Witnessing
очень
is
важная
quite
для небесного
complicated,
родителя и очень
but it's
опасная,
very important
нежелательная,
for Heavenly Parent,
нежелательная для сатаны.
and
Поэтому нам
it's
постоянно
extremely
нужно стремиться к
dangerous for
тому,
Satan.
чтобы обретать точку зрения Бога на
So
свидетельствование.
we really
И
want,
естественным образом мы постоянно ее теряем.
through those meetings,
Если
to
я
gain
давно и много
God's
занимаюсь
viewpoint on
свидетельствованием,
witnessing, because
или если
with
наоборот,
time we
я
sometimes lose
только начал им
God's
заниматься и только чуть-чуть
viewpoint on
попробовал,
witnessing.
у меня может появиться чувство, что
If
это
you just
трудная,
if I
нерегулярная деятельность,
start witnessing,
которая
then
приносит мало
after a
результата,
few attempts to
выматывает,
witness,
что
I
это
might
некоторая
feel
обязательная часть
that's
деятельности нашей
really
церкви,
ungrateful, that's really
традиция,
difficult.
мой долг
But
и жертва ради Небесного Отца. В таком случае я теряю точку зрения Бога на
and I
свидетельствование,
feel
как на
it's just a
деятельность, которая
sacrifice.
напрямую
It's just
связана
a
с сердцем Бога,
duty. I just have to do
которая
it for Heavenly Parent.
приносит нам радость или грусть, и
Then
так
we
или
actually
иначе
lose the
делает нас
essence
ближе к
of joy
пониманию
in our
сердца Бога,
heart,
делает нас
of
удовлетворяющей семьей.
understanding God's heart, making Him happy.
Вот цель наших встреч будет как
So
раз в том,
the
чтобы
goal of
понемножку
these
выправить эту
meetings
точку зрения,
is
связаться с тем,
to
как
change
свидетельствование
our
видят наши старшие братья и
viewpoint
сестры,
on witnessing,
связаться с теми
to
духовными
hear
и
what
эмоциональными
is our
опытами, через которые они
elders'
прошли,
viewpoint on
и немножко
witnessing
выправить то, как мы
through their
видим свидетельство, ну и,
experiences.
естественно, обрести силы, чтобы этой деятельностью прекрасно заниматься.
And of course, to gain
Хорошо, давайте
power to
тогда
witness, to go
сейчас мы
out.
немного почитаем слова из
So
своей молитвы
now
о
let's
свидетельствовании.
read a short hunduke
Я
about
буду читать на
witnessing.
русском языке,
I will read in
но
Russian.
ссылка на те же самые слова, ссылку на те же самые слова на английском языке вы можете найти в чате. Ну,
You can
естественно,
find the
перевод
link to the English
слушать не
hunduke in
будете.
the chat, but I will read it in English.
Свидетельствование. Причина, почему нам нужно свидетельствовать. Что такое свидетельствование?
Witnessing, the reason
Что
that we
такое
should witness.
свидетельствование?
What is witnessing?
Когда мы свидетельствуем,
What is
мы побуждаем
witnessing?
людей смутно
Witnessing
покинуть
is
мир сатаны
including
и последовать небесному
is
пути.
inducing people
Вы
to
должны это
leave the
понять.
satanic
Вам
world
понятно
with a
это или нет?
smile
А
and
то я гляжу,
follow
как вы
the heavenly
свидетельствуете,
place.
и вижу, что вы
You have
заставляете
to
людей
understand
приходить,
this. Do you
невзирая
understand?
на то, нравится им
When
это
I
или
look at
нет.
the way you do
Так поступать
witnessing,
неправильно.
you force people to come,
Человек– духовное
completely
существо,
disregarding
поэтому
whether
молитесь
or
за
not
него и
the
смотрите,
person
что
likes it.
получится.
But this is not right. Man is a spiritual
Проведите
being.
эксперимент.
So pray for
Попробуйте
that
вложить в
person and see what
человека всю свою
happens.
любовь
Do an
с болью
experiment.
в сердце,
Try
плачь
to
над
give
ним,
your
чтобы
utmost
взрастить
love
его
for a
и
person
убедить последовать
and
по
cry
пути
with painful
Божьего
heart in order to raise him and persuade him to
Что такое
follow the path
свидетельствование?
of
Если
dispensation.
Авель это
What
плюс,
is
то Каин
witnessing?
минус.
If Abel
Это
is
мир
plus,
сатаны.
then Cain is minus.
По
This is the
отношению к миру
satanic world.
сатаны я
In
занимаю
respect to the
позицию плюса
satanic
или
world, I
Авеля.
am in the position of plus and Abel.
Мы должны подчинить Каина, чтобы этот плюс
We are to
сатанинского
make
мира стал
Cain
минусом.
submit so that
Мы
this
не
plus
создаем
of the
его, а
satanic
побуждаем
world can
объединиться с
become a
нами.
minus.
Это воссоздание.
It's not creating, but
Воссоздание,
it's
понятно вам?
causing him to become one with
Ничего не получится,
myself.
если человеку это не нравится.
It is recreation.
Ему это должно
Recreation. Do you
приносить радость.
understand? So
Бог
it
творил
won't
мир с
do
радостью, а не с печалью, верно?
if he dislikes it.
Поэтому вы
He
должны
must be
отдавать столько
happy.
любви,
God created the
чтобы ее
world
количество
with
превзошло
joy
бремя трудностей
and
и
not with
страданий, с
sorrow.
которыми вы
Isn't that right?
сталкиваетесь.
Therefore, you must
Творение–
give
это
love
вклад,
that
вклад и еще раз вклад.
surpasses the
Вы
amount
пожнете
of
столько,
difficulty
сколько
and
вложились
hardship
и посеяли,
that
понимаете?
you are
Поэтому вы будете
facing.
восстановлены настолько, насколько вы вкладываете
Creation
свою энергию в
is
архангела.
inputting,
Здесь
investing,
применим тот же
and
принцип.
investing again.
Поскольку
You will be
существует
able to
такая
reap
формула,
as
когда я
much as
выхожу
you
к
have
людям,
given. Do
когда
you
я хожу к людям,
understand?
я говорю
For
им,
this reason,
прикладывайте
you will be
больше
restored
усилий,
to the
вкладывайтесь и жертвуйте
extent
собой.
that you have
Это
invested in
правильное или
people
неправильное
and the
указание?
archangel.
Нужно
It is
продолжать
by the
так
same
делать до
logic.
тех пор, пока восстановление не
Because
будет
such a
завершено.
formula exists, when I
Вот
stand
владыка
up in
творения.
public, I tell you,
Разве он начал
put
творить,
more
потому что ему
effort in,
сказали это делать?
invest by
Нет,
sacrificing.
он начал
Is
творить,
this
потому
the
что
right
ему желали.
education or bad
В таком
education?
случае, можно ли этого
This must
достичь
be
по чьей-то
continued
указке?
until restoration is
Может ли
complete.
что-то быть сделано
God
просто
is the
потому, что я
master of
этого хочу?
creation.
Вы
Did he
сами должны
engage
это
in creation
захотеть.
because someone told him to do
То же
so?
самое относится и к
No,
вашим
he did
гостям.
it voluntarily.
Чем же
So,
тогда
can it
является
be
ваш
done
выход
by
на
having
свидетельство?
someone tell one
Это просьба о
what to
том,
do?
чтобы
Will it
выполнили
be
свою задачу
accomplished
и
just
скорее
because
вернулись в
I
собрание.
desire it?
Просьба
We
о том, чтобы вы
ourselves
скорее
must
вернулись к
want it.
небесам.
The same holds true for
Поэтому
them
тот,
also.
кто делает все с
Then what is
неохотой,
going out to
будет
witnessing?
обречен в тот
It
же
is
час.
asking you to complete the
Вот
task
я и
and come
выгоняю
back
вас на
quickly.
улицу, чтобы вы
It
смогли
is
делать
asking
для
you to
меня.
return to heaven quickly.
Теоретически это
So
правильно.
someone who is
Поэтому
unwilling
как только
and
вы это
reluctant
поймете,
will be
вы должны будете тут же
doomed
идти на
right on the
улицу.
spot. For this
И
reason,
немцы, и
I'm chasing you
американцы, и
out
черные,
in
и
order to
белые,
avoid your
все должны идти
destruction.
свидетельствовать.
It is
Вы не можете
theoretically
думать так, мне
sound.
это не нужно.
Therefore,
Даже если я
once you
попытаюсь,
understand
все равно
this,
результат будет
you
таким-то и
must go
таким-то.
out
От этого
right
зависит
away.
все.
A German American, a black man, and a white man
А,
all have to go. You cannot
главная
have the
цель кампании
attitude,
свидетельствования–
I do not
выход
need
свидетельской активности на
that.
национальный
Even
уровень.
if I try it,
Если вы
the
можете создать
outcome will only
национальное
be
основание для
like this
свидетельствования,
and
то
like
утвердите
that.
национальную сферу
It all
свободы.
depends on this
Если вы
type of
создадите
thing.
международное основание для свидетельствования, вы утвердите международную сферу свободы. Это одна из стратегий
If you
Бога
can
по
build a
отношению к
national
человеческому
foundation
миру.
for witnessing, then you will set the national
Я говорю
sphere
вам
of
идти
freedom.
свидетельствовать. Но что такое
I tell you to go
свидетельствование?
out and
Это
witness.
указание пути.
But what is witnessing? It
Свидетельство
is showing
указывает
the
вам, как
way.
вернуться к
It
Богу
is
ради
showing
блага
you
мира.
how to return to
Замечательно,
God for the
правда?
sake of the world.
Если вы
How
спросите
great is
изначального
that?
человека, куда
If
ты
you ask
отправишься,
an
он
original man,
ответит,
where are you
пройдя
going
через
to
земной
go?
мир, я должен
Then he
вернуться
will
в Царство
reply,
Небесное.
by going through the world,
Как же
I must
велика
return to the kingdom of heaven. So how great is the
миссия того,
task
кто
that
прокладывает путь.
paves the
Он
way?
терпит гонения, но
Receiving
приносит Господу мир.
persecution, receiving
Любой
this and
человек
that,
возвращается на небеса,
always
проходя
one
через земной
returns
мир.
to heaven by passing
Если у вас
through
нет
the world.
доказательств, вы
If you
должны их
don't
найти.
have
В
evidence,
одной из
then you
святых
must
песен
find
есть
it.
такие строчки.
In one of the holy
Иисус, я верю в
songs, the
Иисуса,
lyrics
поскольку у меня
goes,
есть множество
Jesus,
доказательств.
I believe in
Есть ли
Jesus
у вас такие
because I was
доказательства?
given much evidence.
Вы выходите
Have you received
свидетельствовать
any
и
evidence?
похваляетесь тем, что у вас есть
You go
доказательства.
out witnessing,
Однако уверены ли вы
bragging
в том,
that you
что их
have
можно использовать в
evidences,
качестве
but do you
подтверждения?
think they can be
Какой смысл что-то
considered
доказывать
as
людям, если вы
proofs?
не можете никого убедить о
What
своем?
use
Это бессмысленно.
does it have in proving things
Какие
when
дары
you
вы
cannot
возьмете с собой на
convince
небеса?
anyone to remain?
Оказавшись в духовном мире,
It's
вы
no
предстанете перед множеством
relevance.
мучеников и великих святых.
When you go to the
Сможете ли
kingdom
вы
of heaven,
открыть
do you have
свою
any
сумку с
gifts
дарами
that you will bring?
перед столь великими личностями?
When you arrive at the spirit
Подумайте
world,
хорошенько.
there will stand before you
Покажете ли вы
many
свои дары
martyrs
больше
and
похожие на
saints of
содержимое
great
рождественского
merit.
торта?
Can you
Какие
unwrap your
страдания
bag
пришлось
of
пережить
gifts
царь
before
этого
such great
мира? И
figures?
какие страдания
Please
выполнят вашу
reflect
вечную
deeply.
волю?
Do you think
Вы
that you
утверждаете, что
can
живете ради
unwrap
страны
and
и мира,
present things that
если вы не испытали
resemble
даже
the
таких
belongings
страданий.
of a beggar?
Как вы можете говорить,
What
что вы
kind of
прожили такую
suffering
жизнь?
did Unification
Вам
Church
лучше
go
думать
through?
так.
And
Вот
what
я
kind of
утверждал меня
suffering
по
did
своей
you
жизни.
undergo?
Это нельзя
You
назвать
say that
настоящими
you are living for the
страданиями.
sake of the nation
Вам
and
все
the
еще
world,
предстоит
but
пройти
without
путь.
going through even that
Попав в духовный мир,
much
Я не склонен
suffering,
править
how can
простым
you
философским
say that you
стандартам и
have
сказать:
led such a
«Я
life?
готовлю всю
It
жизнь.
is more proper
Ужасно,
for
примите их
you
от
to
меня».
take up the attitude,
Даже
although I
девушки
have
в
suffered a
глазах
little,
приносят с собой
that cannot
приманку.
add up
Как же вы
to a real
отправитесь в духовный
suffering.
мир с
You still have a
испытаниями?
long way to go. When you get to the spirit world, you should be able to
Дорогие друзья,
unwrap
сейчас
your
я буду
gift box
приглашать
and
нашего
say,
сегодняшнего выступающего, мистера Корли.
now I want to invite
Он будет
our
выступать на
guest
английском
speaker
языке,
today.
и его презентация тоже будет на английском.
He will speak
А, Презентация, переведенная
in
на русский
English,
язык, э,
and he will
как бы
use
сказать,
also his
ну,
PowerPoint
насколько мы смогли ее
in
быстро перевести,
English.
будет выложена в чате, ссылка на нее.
If you
Если во время
want to,
выступления мистера Корли у вас возникнут вопросы к нему, касающиеся свидетельствования,
if you have any questions about
задавайте их, пожалуйста, в
witnessing,
чате,
please
и
write them
после
down in
завершения
the
его
chat.
презентации, а
And
если время
after
будет,
his
мы
talk,
зададим ему, ну вот, может быть, их зададим, если время
we
останется.
try
А
to
сейчас я
ask
хочу
them.
за эту виртуальную кафедру
Now I
пригласить
want
мистера
to
Джека
invite
Корли
Mr. Jack
с
Corley
посланием «Мои переживания в свидетельстве».
on the topic my experience in witnessing.
Evening, brothers and sisters. Greetings from Prague, and thank you very much for joining. I know there are many more trying to get in, but unfortunately, our staff in Moscow forgot to increase the number of possible windows. So, Artem, I hope you can correct this and that everybody who signed up got a link and also actually can actually join, because the numbers is stuck at 100, I see here. So sorry to those who are not on here, they're not hearing me now, but I hope in the course of this call that they can join. But I'm very gratified to see that so many wanted to join, and it's not, I'm sure, because of me, but it's because of the concept of witnessing, which is in all of our minds right now, because that is a major concern for True Mother. That is why she has sent her best and brightest young people all over the world, including her own grandson and his wife, to this region, to be out there witnessing every day. So True Mother knows that if we want to save the world, we have to have a strong core foundation. Otherwise, we're just dreaming. Anyway, I kind of changed the theme because I have to confess that I cannot be seen as a good model of witnessing success. I know that Artem in Moscow wanted me to give the first talk, partially because, of course, I'm the Eastern Europe sub-regional leader. And this was originally focusing more on the Russian-speaking population of our region. But then it became expanded, and as I understand it, over 200 signed up. So I hope that we can resolve the issue for those who are waiting to join us. If there's any message that should be sent out, Sasha or Artem, please do so that we can allow everybody who made that sincere effort to be a part of it. Because this is the first of a series, actually, of programs on the issue of witnessing. And so I've renamed, in a way, my talk Reflections on Witnessing. Because many times I'm talking about other people's activities. And particularly right now, we're developing programs with young people. And I know that we will have Dale Rose, Vitali Vakulinsky, and Roger Frankhauser from Switzerland joining us actually in the coming weeks. And they have a lot of experience, I know, from witnessing over the years. I also hope that in addition to that, we will have people from the young team that are now traveling or working in different countries and have them testify to their very direct and very current experience. They are a younger generation, and it's good to hear from them. I've been following True Parents for 50 years, so some of my experiences could be close to 50 years old. I'm not sure they're so helpful in today's world, but we'll try. And I want to now share my screen, and there are 10 points I want to reflect upon, which I hope will be helpful to you, and that can give you some ideas or inspirations. So is reflections about witnessing. And here are several points, and I'll elaborate a little bit on each one before continuing the PowerPoint. First of all, I think we can all understand that successful witnessing is based on a heart of love, connected to Heavenly Parent and true parents, and a love for people. And this is really, I believe, very true. That we cannot, as we just read in the 100, we cannot simply go out to witness because somebody asked us to do so. We cannot go out to witness um, and just drag people back and sit them down and pump them full of lectures in the hopes that they will change their faith and become members. Father said that that doesn't work. So we have to really understand people where they're at. So we must have really a serious interest in people, understanding them, becoming their friend, really sincerely wanting them to receive the kind of blessing that all of us have received through meeting true parents and the principal. I will tell you from my own experience back in 1973, I was working in Birmingham, England. I was working at a construction site as a laborer in order to pay for my higher education. I went to a private institute and I had to pay based on a bank loan. And then in the summer, I would work and repay my loan. And then my brother, who had already joined the church, sent me a message and said, please visit this address in the city of Birmingham in the UK and find out what I'm doing and why I joined this movement. So I thought, okay, I trusted him. I thought, he wouldn't do anything really stupid like me. And I thought he's a very sensible person. So surely he will have something useful that he wants me to know. And so I visited after work each evening for about 2 or 3 weeks in August and July and August 1973 and listened to lectures from two young brothers. They were both actually slightly younger than me. They were pioneering the city. They themselves had just joined the church about a year earlier. And the one thing that really impressed me was their utmost sincerity. When they spoke, I felt they're speaking directly to my heart. They are not superficially religious. They also are people that really, they just naturally carry their religious values with them. So I could immediately sense, yeah, these two young guys, they are really genuine and sincere. And that's really important, that when we meet people, they can sense from us our sincerity, our genuine care and love for people. And they're moved by that. And one of the things that really moved me very much was one of those brothers. And just to put the context here, I had just come from Ireland. I had never been in the UK before. I was an Irish nationalist as a student. These were British young people. We have a history. So, it was not maybe the most ideal situation for a good relationship. But what really moved me was that one day I did not come to the center. For some reason, I don't even remember. I did not come. And at those days, we didn't have mobile phones or email and so on. But there was a landline. I could have and should have called the center and said, I won't be there, for the next lecture, the next day. But I didn't. It was very impolite of me, I think. And then I actually came back the following day from my work to my apartment. And my apartment was unusually situated in such a way that there was no shelter by the entrance to my apartment. In other words, if it was raining, and it rained a lot in Britain, anybody standing outside would get wet. And when I arrived back, this brother, one of these two brothers, was standing there in front of my door, soaking wet. And I saw him and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I was really worried, because you didn't show up yesterday, as you had said. So I really wanted to check if you're okay and how are you doing and, can I help?" And I was so moved by that. I thought, how many people in my life until then had made such efforts and showed such concern for me? And this is a British young man doing it for an Irish guy. And so that touched my heart very deeply. And also another time that I learned a lot about witnessing was the opportunity I had to work with True Parents, True Father's first disciple, Reverend One Pil Kim, when he was leading a section of the movement in the UK. I saw his attitude to our members and to the young people that were coming to the workshops, and how much care and how much concern he expressed. He was being so humble and serving them. And this moved me deeply as well, because this is the person who had been following True Father for so many years. And I said to him one time, you know, you've been following True Father from the very beginning. You must feel very blessed. And his answer was no, quite the opposite. I feel like a sinner because actually I should be the best example, but I'm not. And I was touched by that attitude. But I was particularly touched the way he took care of brothers and sisters and new people coming. So this kind of heart of love coming from Heavenly Parent and True Parents, expressed in love for people, is really important. And it's something that we should all be examining every day. It's just part of our life. And that means, in other words, the second point, which is be aligned with Heavenly Parent and True Parents through practicing a principled lifestyle. Again, principle shouldn't, it's not a teaching, it's not a belief, it's a lifestyle if it's going to be meaningful. And so, in other words, we should actually be always, in a way, switched on, if you know what I mean, that we are always alive with the principle, alive with the love of God and True Parents, and we are walking containers of love. Then people will be attracted to us. And if we meet somebody, we look at them with the eyes and the heart of God and see in them something original and true, even if externally they do not look so good. And I can tell you, at that time in my life, I didn't look so good. I had long hair, dressed all in black, and coming from a construction site didn't look very pretty. I wouldn't have witnessed to myself if I saw myself walking in the street. I thought, no, this person doesn't look prepared. Anyway, it's also important to have a good grasp of divine principle content and the True Parents' words. Why is that important? It's because actually I discovered this over the years through teaching principle in hundreds of workshops in many countries, that the best way to master principle is to teach it. Because when you teach principle, you understand what you don't understand. You know what I mean? You realize your limitations. And then when you go to study again, you then know you have a focus. I need to understand this point or that point much better. So actually, it gives you also the possibility to be able to utilize principle, not just as a religious doctrine, but actually even in normal conversations. You can talk to people about the values of principle without even having to use theological words. I worked in China over a 10-year period together with Dr. Jun Ho Suk and other members of what we know as the International Educational Foundation team. And we could not mention God. We could not speak in religious terms. Yet we were able to do programs for 300,000 people on every level, from the federal to the state and local level, teaching the three blessings without mentioning God. We had no choice. And yet we had to somehow reach out to the Chinese people. So we had to adapt the way we talk, the words we use. Otherwise, we would be kicked out. They were actually kicking out our missionaries from nearby Chinese-speaking countries while they were welcoming us. And how did we do that? We changed the three blessings to the three goals in life. And of course, these are the most important goals in life. And we could talk about the root cause of conflict without going into theology based on the concept of self-centeredness and so on. So there are places and there are times when you may have to speak in a non-theological way. And many people, in fact, not just in communist countries, but they would walk away from you if you start talking too directly about God, about religious things, because they have an aversion to religion based on maybe some bad experience they had in their life. And by trying to talk to them in a more religious way, you may actually turn them off. And so we have to develop the skills to be able to present the values and the goals of principle in a non-religious way in some cases. I remember one time Reverend Warnpil Kim, after he had become National Messiah to Norway, he came to Moscow when I was working there and wanted to have a 2-day workshop based on the lectures we were using in China. And he brought two of his colleagues. One was the National Messiah from the UK, and another was Knut Holders, who former national leader there, and had them sit for 2 days. He's hearing a non-theological version of the principle. He traveled also with us to Beijing and Shanghai, and was also listening like a very good student to try to understand how are we presenting principle in a non-religious, non-theological way. So, of course, it's better if you can be very direct and go into all the religious and spiritual. That would be the most ideal. But we have to also be adaptable and, touch people's hearts through the way we explain our values. Witnessing. Now, one of the things that you will learn or have learned, I'm sure many of you, are dealing with your fears and inhibitions as you reach out to people, total strangers. Maybe you don't speak the same language. You're not accustomed to their culture. Or in many different ways, you feel inhibited. Maybe you're shy. Maybe you fear rejection. This is a normal sort of thing that you don't want somebody to be nasty to you and to reject you. And this is a normal human situation. But it's also very liberating when, despite all of those things, we can free ourselves from those fears, from those inhibitions, and just boldly reach out to people. And maybe you'll get a rejection, but eventually, based on your effort, you will also bring some good result. So, personally, I can still remember, like it was yesterday, my first effort at witnessing. Just after I joined the church, I was living in a place called Reading in the UK, where we had our workshop center. So the day came when I should go witnessing. I was in the church for a very short time, only had a 2-day workshop. At that time, there were no 7-day workshops. And here I am going out. And keep in mind, I'm an Irish country boy, just kind of came to the UK for the first time. And during that time, 1973, the relationship between Ireland and the UK was very tense. And I had an accent which was immediately recognizable as a very strong Irish accent. And so I was being persecuted both as an Irishman and as a Mooney. So I was full of fear. And I thought, okay, I'll make some kind of strategy. And my strategy was, okay, I'm going to look around for somebody that's really looking miserable. And, really the most miserable looking person on the street. I'm going to walk up to them and I'm going to say, would you like to find happiness? And they're going to say, oh, yes. And I say, come with me. I can show you how to find it. So I felt confident I can surely do that. So I did it. I walked up to some lady on the street who looked absolutely miserable. She was smoking a cigarette and looked like she had the whole world on her shoulders. And I said, are you looking for happiness? She said, no, I'm actually very happy. Thank you. Being British, she's very polite. So what do I do now? I don't have plan B. So I had to learn how to overcome my limitations in approaching people and just face them and overcome them. I mean, the limitations. And later on, and this is how things changed, I was a member of the European IOWC, International One World Crusade. And We began in the UK, traveled through Germany, France, and Italy. But while I was in Germany in 1975, actually, I was in Munich City, a city that I love, and I'm glad that True Mother's coming there. And the first day, I didn't speak a word of German except maybe Danke, Bitte, or something. And I asked one German brother, can you write on a piece of paper some words that would be good to invite people to come hear a lecture in the center? So he did. I had no idea what was written on the paper. But I walked around to people on the street and just held up the paper. And they would say, yeah. But then I was so excited that on the way back to the center, I would see somebody passing by who looked good. And I thought maybe prepared. And I would say to the person with me, moment. While I walked to the other person and said, show them the paper. And they said, yeah. So by the end of the day, you may think I'm exaggerating, but there may be somebody on this call who might even remember this. But I brought 21 guests to the center. Now, unfortunately, none of them are still in the movement. Some joined but left. But that was the kind of spirit. And the more German I learned, the less guests I brought. So I realized, oh, it's more than just your skills at talking. It also has a lot to do with your spirit and your determination and your total conviction to witness to people. And so the next day, I think I remember I brought 11 and somehow went down from there, although I kept bringing guests, but nonetheless, it wasn't the same as the first day. And so this is also important that we have that conviction and have that spirit. Then number 6 point, and the important role of the relationship between the divine principal teacher and the spiritual parent. So I have been seeing it from both sides because, of course, I was witnessing on the street and depending on German-speaking lecturers that were in the center at that time. But I've also been on the other side as the lecturer. And people say that the most important workshop is the 7 or 21-day workshop where people make a commitment to join or not. And I disagree, I must say politely, because I taught many 2-day workshops, and of course, some 7 and 21-day workshops. If they are not impressed and they're not moved on the 2-day introductory workshop, and they decide not to come back, you've lost them. They can always say, well, I listened to your teaching and I'm not impressed, and thank you, but no thanks. So, really important, more than you may realize, is the importance of introductory lectures. Can you really touch people? Can you get to their heart in an introductory lecture, maybe a 1-hour lecture or a 2-day workshop? So it's the first contact which is actually the most important. And therefore, also another aspect of that is the relationship between the lecturer and the spiritual parent. It's like that between a mother giving birth and the midwife delivering the child. So there must be good working together. There must be harmonious give and take. And the teacher should understand the concerns and of the spiritual parent. And then the spiritual parents support the teacher in guiding their spiritual child to understand principle and true parents. So these are key issues that when a member brings somebody to the center, take the time to know the person, find out about their life. Don't just plonk them in front of a board or a PowerPoint these days and just start teaching at them. Really listen to them, find out about their life. Really, maybe you're the only first person they might even have opened up to about some things in their life. So if they feel I can trust this person that's now about to teach me something, then they open their heart. But if they're sat down without much preparation and preach that, it could turn them off. And so it's very important to have the attitude and the kind of spirit of really listening to people, understanding who they are, treating them as individual, and helping them to open their hearts and in the process then listen also to what you want to say. Also, the next point, number 7, helping the process of rebirth, caring for guests and new members. The environment must always be sensitive in the community. For example, if you're in a community center, or it could be your own home, that great attention and care is given to the people who show up. And that includes also the person who brought the guest, because they've been out there maybe in the sweltering heat or the freezing cold, witnessing, and they're coming with a lot of hope. Maybe this person will understand and will follow true paths. So you, in a way, receive the offering as a lecturer. You receive the offering of the member bringing the guest. So treat them with great care and respect and love. And there are sometimes people who are kind of difficult and argumentative and so on, but always show them respect, always show them understanding. Listen if they even say something not so good or negative, or they maybe haven't learned how to communicate their disagreement very well, but fundamentally they could be a good person. And so don't be distracted by their attitude always, because once they can come to know the principle, they realize, oh, this is really good. This is a good person. Even I asked his questions of this person in a not very polite way. This person responded in a very understanding and caring way. And then that your response in such a situation could be a decisive factor in helping a person to really want to know. Because maybe his or her experience in life is that when they talk critically or ask challenging questions, they feel rejected. But if you show love and care when they ask difficult questions, actually, they then feel, well, nobody ever treated me like this. And you could change their lives. You never know by one word or one gesture how a person's life can change. I heard a story one time in America that there was one guest who was very troublesome and was brought there, but then when he listened to the lecture, wasn't so impressed. And he was traveling through California, like many people who join. And he thought, okay, I'll just quietly leave during the next coffee break. And during that coffee break, one sister on the staff approached him and handed him a donut or offered him a donut. And something about the gesture, something about the demeanor of that sister actually touched him very deeply. And he decided, this is such a beautiful person. And I'm not talking about external appearance, but the gesture of love and care he felt in that, he decided to cancel his plans and joined. So he called his testimony Saved by a Donut. Also very important is the role of ancestor liberation and blessing and the Chunbo experience, because this is, of course, after somebody joins. We want to not just stop loving them once they join and then we move on to the next one. No, we should always have a heart of caring, and we should be a movement of love that is always caring. It should be just so natural for us to be like that. Then people will be drawn to that. There's a quote in the Bible that says that, behold, see how those Christians love each other. We should be such a movement that, behold, see how those unificationists love each other. So we actually have to create the environment among ourselves that anybody who walks in, immediately they can feel a beautiful, loving environment. But if in our community or in our family there are tensions and disagreements and disunity, that kind of environment repels people. They may not know the details, but they can sense. And certainly Spirit World will be looking out to know what kind of environment should this person be brought to. Their ancestors will surely be concerned that when they come to the community or meet somebody, it's the best person to take care. It's also the best community to join. And so, but when they move on, then to help them grow spiritually, we should introduce the process of ancestor liberation and blessing, and of course, prepare them for their blessing. And so, ninth point I want to mention here is creating an environment to raise new members to understand the blessing and build happy and healthy families. It's more or less the same point with different words. And then, of course, we are a movement now with several generations. We need to develop and very creatively, I believe, like Mother is doing, uh, ways of raising up future generation of members and future blessed children. So I know that now many of those blessed children in Europe are adults. In Korea, they're senior adults already, are in their 50s. So they're no longer children. But nonetheless, we should be, from one generation to the next, we should be creating a loving environment in which we can bring people closer to true parents. So these are just some reflections I wanted to offer, on this. There are people on this call that have more experience than me and would make a better presentation than me in terms of their direct experience right now and recently. I'm talking about some experiences that are more than 40 years old. So I really look forward to hearing from the future speakers. I know that Dale and Roger have worked in Russia and other countries of the former Soviet region. And of course, Vitaly Vakalinsky is the president of the Family Federation in Russia and doing wonderful work also in reaching out. And there was one thing that I missed here. I see in-reach and outreach witnessing. This is something I've been talking to members and leaders in my region. In-reach means that we need to be able to witness to people who were in our movement but have become distant or indeed quit. And because otherwise we become like a revolving door. That we do not want to do. So we have to evaluate why is it that people join for some time, they're very enthusiastic, and then one day they said, no, I'm quitting. We need to analyze what is it that is causing them to lose their faith or lose their belief in our movement. Actually, people leave often, they don't stop believing in principle, or they don't stop believing true parents are who they say they are. But somehow they lose their desire to work together with our community. So we should be analyzing this point. So I've asked all the countries in Eastern Europe, please look at the membership in your community that are no longer participating in activities. Find out how you can reach them and how you can really open their hearts again. Because what's the point in going out bringing new people if we can't maintain those who already know the principle? So some people will not come back, they very strongly reject us, but there are many who are not like that. And we should be concerned about them. And then outreach witnessing, of course, is the witnessing to new people. And I believe that our movement can be revived. And this is something that True Mother has asked us to do, how to be able to revive our movement. I want to now quickly go through some things. I hope that time allows. And this is some of my own experiences. I know, I'm sure many of you on this call, I don't see your faces right now because my screen is full of the slide. But I traveled to many countries in my church life. And I had so many different opportunities to witness directly or indirectly. And here are the countries that I have been to. You may not have time to count them, but it's 83. And I have worked in many of those countries. If you think about the former Soviet republics, which are now independent countries, all over Europe. I was a European leader. I've been to all the countries of Europe. I've been to Asia and so on. And I spent a lot of time also in the People's Republic of China, traveled there over 60 times actually to do our work there. And so, it's been a great education. And I encourage those of you who can, and especially the younger generation, before you are tied down with family and other responsibilities, try to go beyond your own country and culture if you can. Try to work in some other very different countries from where you lived. It'll broaden your mind. It'll help you to understand the world better. And you will get a grasp also of what it is like for a heavenly parent as he looks down at this world. He isn't just seeing the prosperous, free countries, he is seeing the poor, miserable, struggling, unfree countries, and he has a picture of the world which is much different than if you came from just one country, one language, one culture. And then you cannot grasp the enormity of the task that we have to restore this world. These are, as I said, the countries that I have been to or worked in many cases. And these are some of the things, some of the pictures from those days. At one point, I was an itinerary worker in the Asia region, appointed by True Father in 1988. And so, beginning of 1990 until 91, I worked across countries, about 15 countries in Asia. And it was an amazing experience to understand also that within our movement at that time, there was quite different situations. There was great poverty in parts of our movement. I did not go to Africa very much, but at that time, particularly, I think things in Africa were really challenging. But even in some countries in Asia, like some parts of the Philippines or Bangladesh or places like that, it was not easy. And so meeting brothers and sisters in those countries was really a very special and eye-opening experience for me because I could understand how the incredible faith of brothers and sisters who, had very little material things. And sometimes the weather conditions, at least for me, were almost unbearable. And they were out there witnessing. I remember one time being in the Philippines and fundraising in a Jeep, an open Jeep, with brothers and sisters there. And all day in the tropical heat, making just a few dollars. Of course, in the Philippines, a few dollars at that time, 1989, went a long way compared to the West. But nonetheless, the conditions under which they had to raise that money or go out and witness were very different from the comfortable conditions that we in Western society especially. So please keep in mind and pray for those brothers and sisters who are working in countries even today where conditions are not easy. These are other countries, of course, as well. The United States, I was leading a witnessing team called IOWC, International One World Crusade, traveling around, I think, 12 states of America with an international team of brothers and sisters. This is in Russia, in Moscow, with my wife and son, in the United Kingdom Parliament. And at that time, actually, I was nationally to the UK with meeting with Sanjanim and her husband, and then Reverend Yu as European leader. This is back in 1976, I believe, in Germany, in the city of Aachen. This is in Ireland. This is in France. And I want to share one other story, and then I'll finish. Just recently, I spoke earlier, by the way, about the importance of the Chunbo Providence, Ancestor Liberation and Blessing. And just a few days ago, Reverend Inpyo Moon completed a tour across Russia, beginning in St. Petersburg, in the west of Russia, all the way to Khabarovsk, right next to China. And it is 8 time zones and 6,200 kilometers between those two cities. And he visited many communities throughout Russia. And I was so inspired to see the faces of our brothers and sisters there and how much I feel they appreciated what he was doing. And he himself really served brothers and sisters with a heart of loving care. And this is very important in connected to witnessing, because if we are troubled by ancestral difficulties, how can we feel inspired to bring somebody? If you are going out witnessing and you're being pounded by bad ancestors, then you want to invite somebody to come and suffer like you? Of course not. You want to be a happy person. So you need to be able to live a principled life, liberate your ancestors, and become a happy person. Then people want to be around happy people. And so I felt this is the spirit of the Chunbo. that these are other cities all throughout the country, and he brings that happy spirit, and brothers and sisters, and especially the second generation, love it. And there are people who have not been attending or being active, but they really were inspired to come. So I want to recommend that you invite President Moon. He's very busy, but still, he took several weeks off to go across Russia, and I think this is a very big blessing for him to help you and support you in the work you're doing. There's a 7-day workshop, I believe, coming up in Glanau in Poland. Maybe you could go there and catch some of that spirit. But please use the opportunity to raise up and help brothers and sisters. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your kind attention. I hope something I said or showed inspired you and encouraged you. And I am very sure that people like Roger and Vitali and Dale, who have had many very direct experiences in witnessing all over, they will give you much practical advice. In some ways, I have to say my advice may be a little theoretical sometimes, but there are many who will do a better job in the practical aspects of witnessing. So I hand it back to you, Artem.
Спасибо большое, мистер Корли. Давайте мы поаплодируем.
Thank you, Mr.
Замечательно.
Corley. Let's applaud
Inspirational.
to our speaker.
Я хотел бы задать мистеру Корли один
I want to
вопрос
ask
из
one
нашего
question
чата. Я хочу
to
попросить
Mr.
переводчика,
Corley
потому что есть второй вопрос.
from
Случайным
our
образом просто
chat.
выбрал, а я переведу его на русский язык. Второй вопрос из чата.
So the second question,
Как вы лично противостоите
how do
постоянной
you
негативности
personally
нашей,
counteract
по
the
отношению к нашей церкви
constant
онлайн,
negativity towards our church
и
online,
особенно ситуациями вот
and
с
with the
двумя
situation of
растениями, недавней
H2
ситуацией
and
Японии
H1,
и
the recent situation in
разным программам
Japan,
Netflix?
the Netflix horrible
Как вы
programs?
помогаете
How do
людям
you
преодолеть
counter
страхи
people's
относительно
fears
нашей церкви?
about our church?
Вот. У нас времени не так много,
Well,
We don't
прям коротко два слова об этом
we don't have
сказать.
much time, so
Пожелание.
just very short answer, please.
I have to say that in terms of negativity, there's a group dealing with this directly with media. So let them do their job they're more professional, I would say, in terms of answering back to negativity. So allow them to do their job. In Japan, of course, we should pray for the Japanese or do whatever else, whether it's contacting people when they sometimes ask us to contact people. In other words, let also the Japanese movement find a way to deal with their situation. And we support them in whatever way we're being asked. I know because I'm involved in one of these groups that are dealing with media. There's some very good feedback being prepared in response to the recent articles. I can't say too much here, but things are not easy working in Russia. But nonetheless, our church exists there. When I go there with 1-year multiple entry visas in the name of Unification Church of Russia. They could have shut us down in just 1 second. But for whatever reason, they did not do that. And so, but there are many limitations there because of the current situation. Yet our brothers and sisters, the other ones organizing this call and also doing many activities, as I think many of you may read when I put up monthly summaries on the European news. They're moving ahead. And my advice to them when I was asked, focus on following True Mother's directions. Don't get distracted by the negativity. You do what you have to do to promote true parents, in spite of the negativity. If you're in a position to respond in a way that will help, please do so. But don't focus on the negativity. Focus on the responsibility of promoting principle and true parents. Because if you focus on give and take with the negativity, you'll be sucked into it. And it doesn't help you. it can be very discouraging.
Мгм. Спасибо большое, мистер Корли. Как вы помните, мы
Thank
сегодня
you very
начинаем
much,
с
Mr.
вами
Corley.
нашу серию встреч,
As
и
you
на дальнейших встречах у
remember,
нас
this is
будет
just
возможность
our
обсудить
first
этот и другие
meeting,
вопросы. И мне
and
кажется, что сегодняшняя наша
next time
встреча
we will
дала
also
отличный старт
we can
нашей
discuss
серии.
this and other questions.
Внешне, к сожалению, у нас
I
были накладки, мы просим прощения по разным причинам, наш собственный недосмотр, ошибки.
uh,
Но мне кажется, мистер Корли
I
своим
I feel that
познаниями,
this
своим
meeting was a good
внутренним
start for this
духом,
series of
он
meetings. I'm very sorry
влияет на это,
for the
и совместив вот эти
some
внешние и внутренние моменты,
external
мы дали
difficulties
старт отличной
that
серии
we
встреч.
couldn't organize
А,
more people
Давайте еще
to
раз
join
мысленно,
our
ну или давайте
call.
я за вас всех поблагодарю, мистер Корли, за его прекрасное послание. Спасибо большое.
On your behalf,
Я
I
лично
want to
тоже для себя
express
извлек много глубоких
gratitude to
моментов.
Mr. Corley.
И мне кажется, когда мистер Корли
I've
говорит,
learned
что его
some
опыт
very
мал или
important
недостаточен,
moments.
ну, как сказать, недостаточно или мал для
And
кого-то, мы
when
всегда
Mr.
очень
Corley
рады
says,
наследовать
"Well,
мистеру
maybe
Корли
I
его опытный
I
фундамент, для
don't
нас
have
всегда это
such a
очень
rich experience in
много
witnessing,"
и очень
well,
щедро.
depends
Спасибо
what you
большое, мистер
compare
Корли.
with. So I
Дорогие
think you
друзья,
are very
давайте мы тогда
generous
сейчас сделаем
in
совместную
sharing
фотографию. После этого
your
я
experiences with us.
приветствую
So
вас
thank you very
подсесть, и
much,
мы будем
Mr.
понемножку
Corley.
заканчивать.
Let's
По
make
возможности включите,
our
пожалуйста,
group
камеры.
picture. Please
Кто может
turn
их включить?
on your camera.
Я попрошу
And now our
нашего режиссера
technical
сделать фотографию.
technical man
Так,
to make a group picture.
готовы ли мы?
Are we ready?
Да. Улыбайтесь, пожалуйста.
Please make a smile.
Ну, давайте я скажу. Раз, два, три.
1, 2, 3.
Еще разочек.
One more time.
Раз, два,
1,
три.
2, 3.
Угу. Спасибо всем большое.
Thank you very
Дорогие друзья,
much.
в следующий вторник в
Dear
это же
friends,
время
next
перед нами
Tuesday
выступит Роджер
at the same
Фанхаузер.
time, we are
Это
going
человек,
to
который
meet Roger Fanhauser.
руководил свидетельской командой очень
He
долго,
is the person
был
who
руководством,
was leading
проведенность огромное количество
witnessing
братьев и
team for
сестер,
a
которые до
long
сих пор
time. Many
важные
brothers and
люди этой
sisters
церкви в
actually
разных
were
странах
born
Восточной Европы и не
while
только.
he was
Поэтому, пожалуйста,
the leader of this witnessing
продолжайте
team in the Eastern Europe
обязательно
especially.
приходить в следующий раз.
So
Все внешние
please
проблемы мы решим, мы обещаем, в
join
следующий раз мест будет
us
достаточно.
next Tuesday.
Приглашайте, пожалуйста,
We
молодежь. Нам
promise we
очень
will
важно,
solve
чтобы
all
молодежь
external technical
наследовала этот
problems.
дух, да, чтобы
Just
они
please come,
наследовали дух свидетельствования и могли бы
and
свидетельствовать.
we
И,
really
естественно,
want
приходите
everybody
сами.
who
Дорогие друзья,
joins to
спасибо
inherit
вам большое.
the
Спасибо еще раз
spirit
за
of
приглашение мистера
witnessing
Корли.
from our speakers. Thank you very much
Давайте
for
будем потихонечку
coming.
прощаться.
And
Хорошего вам
let's
вечера. До
say
свидания.
goodbye
Счастливо.
to each other. Have a good evening. See you next week.
Bye bye. До свидания, братья и сестры.
До свидания. Бай-бай.